Have you ever been told to think more logically when your heart was screaming with conviction? Or pushed to trust your gut when all you wanted was cold, hard facts? Perhaps you felt like a stranger in your own mind, misunderstood, out of step, as if the world keeps demanding a version of you that doesn't quite fit. What if these tensions aren't flaws, but clues? What if they're signposts pointing to the hidden blueprint of your psyche? The one Carl Jung unearthed when he mapped the 4 personality types. This isn't just about labels or quizzes that slot you into neat categories. It's about the invisible currents that shape how you perceive reality, make choices, and even how you stumble into conflict with others and yourself. Jung's framework, thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition, reveals that we don't just have personalities. We inhabit them, like lenses through which the world bends and distorts, clarifies or obscures. Some of us navigate life through reason's sharp focus, others through emotions' shifting tides. Some cling to the tangible, the here and now, while others are pulled by the whispers of the unseen, the what could be. But here's the revelation: no single type holds the full truth. Each is a fragment of a greater whole, a partial answer to the question, who am I? And when we ignore the others, when we exile the parts of ourselves that don't align with our dominant way of being, we live half-blind, cut off from the full spectrum of our potential. This is the ache beneath the surface, the sense that something's missing, that there's a way of being we've been taught to suppress. Jung's genius was in showing that these types aren't just psychological traits. They're cosmic in their symmetry, mirroring the 4 directions, the seasons, even the alchemical elements. They are the warp and weft of human consciousness, woven into everything from ancient myths to modern struggles. To explore them is to embark on a pilgrimage into the self, where the terrain shifts from the personal to the universal. So let's begin where all real journeys start, with a question. Not what's your type, but what have you been leaving out? Imagine consciousness as a vast, prismatic crystal, each facet refracting light differently, casting unique patterns onto the walls of your mind. Jung's 4 functions, thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition, are those facets, the elemental forces that shape how we interpret existence. They are not static traits but dynamic currents, flowing through every decision, every moment of clarity or confusion. To grasp them is to hold a key to the labyrinth of human experience, where each turn reveals new dimensions of understanding. At the heart of Jung's model lies the dichotomy of rational and irrational functions, not in the colloquial sense of logic versus chaos, but as 2 fundamental modes of engaging with reality. Thinking and feeling are the rational functions, the tools we use to judge, evaluate, and assign meaning. Thinking dissects the world into structure and causality, building frameworks of analysis like an architect drafting blueprints. Feeling, in contrast, weighs the world on the scales of value and resonance, asking not is this true, but is this important? These are not opposites but complements, 2 languages for navigating the same terrain, one speaking in reasons, the other in resonances. Then come the irrational functions, sensation and intuition, which perceive rather than judge. Sensation is the anchor to the tangible, the realm of what can be seen, touched, and measured. It lives in the immediacy of the 5 senses, grounding us in the physical now. Intuition, meanwhile, is the whisper of the unseen, the sudden flash of insight that arrives without warning. It trades the concrete for the symbolic, the present for the possible, pulling threads from the future or the hidden depths of the unconscious. Where sensation says, this is what is, intuition murmurs, this is what could be. Yet here lies the crux. No one functions in isolation. We each have a dominant way of being, a home base in this 4-fold landscape. But the others linger in the background, sometimes neglected, sometimes rising in rebellion. A thinker may dismiss feeling as frivolous until a surge of emotion appends their logic. A sensor might distrust intuition until a gut feeling saves them from disaster. This tension is not accidental. It is the psyche's way of urging us toward wholeness. Jung called the underdeveloped functions our shadow, not evil, but unseen, waiting to be integrated. And so the question shifts from what's my type to where am I unbalanced? The thinker who learns to feel discovers a deeper wisdom. The intuitive who grounds themselves in sensation finds their visions taking form. This is the alchemy of personality, not confinement to a category, but the liberation of embracing all four ways of being. For just as a tree needs both roots and leaves, the human soul thrives when it honors every facet of its perception. There is an old tale whispered among the hills of a forgotten land, where for travelers, each blindfolded, are led to encounter a great and mysterious statue. The first touches its sturdy legs, cold and unyielding as stone, and declares, "This is a pillar, meant to bear weight and stand firm through time." The second runs fingers along its torso, feeling the rhythmic grooves of carved muscle, and sighs, "No, this is a body, pulsing with the echoes of life." The third finds its outstretched hand, fingers curled as if catching something unseen, and murmurs, "It reaches, for what, I cannot say, but its longing is palpable." The last stumbles upon its face, tracing the hollows of its eyes staring far into the distance, and whispers, "It sees what we cannot. It knows what has not yet come to pass." This is the paradox Jung unveils. We are all those travelers, each convinced our fragment is the whole. The thinker clings to the pillar. Certain reality is built on reason's foundation. The feeler embraces the body. Certain meaning flows through connection. The sensor trusts only the hand's grip on the tangible, while the intuitive is spellbound by the gaze that pierces the veil. Yet the statue is none of these things alone. It is all of them, a synthesis waiting to be witnessed with eyes unbound. Mythology has always known this. Consider the four guardians of the cardinal directions in ancient traditions. The Stoic sage of the North, thinking; the compassionate healer of the South, feeling; the grounded farmer of the East, sensation; and the visionary seer of the West, intuition. They are not rivals but a council, each holding a piece of the sacred truth. The imbalance comes when one claims supremacy, when the sage scrolls dismiss the healer's tears, or the farmer's plow scorns the seer's star charts. The stories warn us. A kingdom fails when its rulers will not listen to one another, and so does the psyche. Alchemy, too, mirrors this quartet. The solvet coagula, dissolve and reconstitute, was never just about lead into gold. It was the disintegration of the fractured self and its rebirth into wholeness. The thinker's mercury, fluid intellect, must unite with the feeler's salt, embodied wisdom. The sensor's earth, material mastery, with the intuitive sulfur, transformative fire. To cling to one is to halt the great work mid-process, leaving the philosopher's stone forever out of reach. These are not mere analogies. They are echoes of a pattern written into the bones of existence. The same pattern Jung saw in dreams, in art, in the restless human spirit. When we dismiss a function within ourselves, we do not erase it. We banish it to the shadows, where it gathers strength and returns as obsession, as compulsion, as the inexplicable yearning for what we've denied. The intuitive who refuses to plant their feet in the sensory world may float into delusion. The thinker who banishes feeling may find their logic brittle as glass, shattered by the first storm of unacknowledged grief. But the stories also offer hope. The moment the traveler removes their blindfold, the statue becomes whole. The pillar supports the body. The hand extends from its core. The eyes shine with a light that illuminates all. This is the invitation, not to choose one way of being, but to finally see the entire shape of your soul. The true test of any psychological insight lies not in its elegance but in its ability to illuminate the ordinary moments. The friction in a morning meeting, the quiet tension in a lover's silence, the sudden crossroad where instinct clashes with reason. Jung's four functions are not relics to be admired under glass. They are living energies that pulse through our daily choices, waiting to be harnessed. To integrate them is to move through the world with newfound fluency, as if deciphering a code that was always there, etched into the fabric of your interactions. Consider the thinker who approaches a conflict with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, laying bare cause and effect, yet without the warmth of feeling. Their logic may land as cruelty, leaving wounds where they intended clarity. The remedy is not to abandon reason but to let it be tempered by empathy, to ask not only what is true, but how will this truth be received? Conversely, the feeler who navigates by emotional currents alone may avoid necessary confrontations, mistaking harmony for health. For them, the integration of thinking becomes a lifeline, a way to set boundaries without guilt, to discern when compassion becomes self-betrayal. For the sensor, grounded in the immediacy of data and detail, life's richest textures may lie just beyond the reach of their five senses. When they learn to dance with intuition, they begin to perceive the patterns behind the facts. The silent rhythm of a market trend before the numbers confirm it. The unspoken shift in a friend's mood before it surfaces in words. The intuitive, meanwhile, often stumbles over the mundane. Forgotten keys, missed appointments, the tyranny of the physical world. For them, sensation is the anchor that keeps their visions from dissipating like mist, teaching them to build bridges between the ethereal and the real. The workplace, too, becomes a theater for these integrations. A team of unbridled thinkers may spin brilliant strategies untethered from human realities, while a feeler-dominated group may shy away from hard decisions in the name of consensus. The most innovative organizations are those that consciously cultivate all four functions, encouraging data-driven debate while honoring emotional intelligence, rewarding meticulous execution while leaving space for disruptive inspiration. It is in this interplay that true creativity ignites, not in the triumph of one mode over others but in their alchemical fusion. Even love transforms under this lens. Relationships often falter when partners speak different functional languages, one craving logical resolution while the other seeks emotional witness, one fixated on practical solutions while the other longs for symbolic gestures. The magic lies not in conversion but in translation, in learning to whisper across the divides. A thinker may learn to offer comfort without fixing. A feeler may discover the beauty of solitude within togetherness. The sensor who learns to entertain their intuitive partner's dreams, and the intuitive who learns to cherish the sensor's presence in the here and now. These are the unions that transcend compromise to touch the realm of true synergy. Jung's map of the psyche is not a destination but a pilgrimage, an ongoing reckoning with the multiplicities within. The goal is not to achieve perfect balance, as if the four functions were ingredients in a static recipe, but to develop the agility to move between them as the moment demands. Like a musician who has mastered scales and can now improvise, or a painter who knows their palette intimately enough to break the rules with purpose, the integrated self becomes both fluid and deliberate. This is the core. To stop asking which one am I, and start asking where am I stuck. To notice when you default to familiar terrain and dare to venture into the uncharted. To recognize that your dominant function is not your identity but your home base. A place to return to, not a prison to inhabit. The thinker who journals their emotions, the feeler who studies logic puzzles, the sensor who meditates on symbols, the intuitive who gardens with their hands. These are not betrayals of nature but expansions of it. The world will always try to pigeonhole you, to reward some ways of being and punish others. But the secret Jung whispers across the decades is this: you contain multitudes, and your power lies in the full spectrum. The truth about who you are is not a fixed point but a constellation, a dynamic, shimmering interplay of light and shadow. To embrace it all is not just an act of self-discovery, but of rebellion against the fragmentation of modern life. So step forward, not as a type, but as a whole.